I'm going to prove to you in this video that politics, which is the mental illness called statism, that is, my guy has the right to rule you, while the other side says, no, my guy has the right to rule you, yields very enthusiastic hypocrites who are utterly incapable of feeling shame for their hypocrisy. This is Adam Mockler criticizing what Charlie Kirk has said in the past, and I'm going to offer my criticism of both Adam Mockler and Charlie Kirk. But before we get started, let me ask you a question. Is it wrong to steal anything from anybody at any time? Generally speaking, is it wrong to steal? The answer is yes. It's immoral to steal. How do we know that? Because it's self-evident. You don't want to be robbed, so you're not going to go out and do those certain things to other people. It's the golden rule. Do to others what you would want done to you. Conversely, don't do to others what you wouldn't want done to you. So we've established that it is not okay to rob someone. What if you have a good reason for robbing them? What if your reason is because you want to give lame children crutches? You want to supply crutches to lame children. So the way you fund that ministry is you steal from people. Does that make it right? No, it doesn't make it right. Even if you have a righteous reason to accumulate the money, which means you in your mind think you have a righteous reason to steal that money so that you can secure that money and buy something and do something good for somebody, that still doesn't make it right. Keep that in mind as we listen to Adam Mockler kind of mock and criticize Charlie Kirk. By the way, Adam Mockler got his start with this left-wing propagandist program called Midas Touch.
There has been a huge effort to sanitize Charlie Kirk's image over the past week by ignoring things that he actually believed and things he actually said on his show. So with just a few videos of Charlie Kirk's own words, I want to serve as a narrative disruptor. Somebody who comes in and disrupts this right-wing narrative that Charlie Kirk was this peaceful, civil rights activist who would never utter a word of violence or hatred in his life. That is just objectively false, and I'll prove that to be false in just 1 second. But just to start off,
here's why it's false. Because if you're a supporter of any politician, you're basically saying, I want my guy to use the violence of the state to rob and rule you and everybody else so that we can supply the people with the things that we think the people need. Free school lunches, so that we can create laws that will make people more safe through gun control, so that we can supply them with universal health care.
with some moral clarity. None of the clips I play here justify what happened to Charlie Kirk. Two things can be true at once. He was a terrible person who held terrible beliefs, and I can show that. I can prove that throughout this video.
Just like Adam Mockler has a terrible person who pushes terrible beliefs.
Same time, nobody in America should be straight up killed for doing a debate on a college campus. These two things can both be true at once, and we need to approach this with moral clarity. Was he a dumbass? Yes, absolutely. Did he deserve to be shot in front of everybody for being a dumbass? No, nobody deserves that.
Was he a dumbass? I want to show you the hypocrisy here, because as we move along, it becomes more and more clear that he is a divisive personality while he condemns divisive personalities.
Gotten that out of the way, I want to play for you these clips. I decided to wait a few days because conservatives have been just going after everybody who even mentions Charlie Kirk in a negative light, but we're a few days out now. I have a platform. I'm going to use this platform. Right-wingers be damned. I don't care if they come after me, because all I'm doing is playing Charlie Kirk's own words. I just want to show you what he said himself so the sanitization doesn't continue to go mainstream. Before we play this clip of him calling for the execution of President Joe Biden, yes, that's right. He called for the execution of Joe Biden. Let me just start off with old Charlie Kirk arguing that essentially children should not get free lunch in schools, even if they need it.
Do you think that there should be free school lunch for all children?
No.
Why?
Of course not. Because parents should feed their kids, not the government.
What if they can't?
Go get a job.
A child?
The parents should go get the job. Yeah. This is important.
I don't believe they have jobs and they can't support their children there because the minimum wage is so low.
No, you aren't dumb, dude. Don't give me this stuff. First of all, this is really.
I want children to eat.
Of course I do. Show me a single child in America going hungry. Doesn't exist. Number two, we have churches, we have food shelters, we have billions.
You can't say that it doesn't exist, that there's no children going hungry. A lot of times Charlie Kirk will make these blanket statements that are clearly false. But Charlie Kirk's point here is it's not the government's job to feed children. And if the government did feed children, where does the government get that money? Because the government can't provide you with anything they haven't first stolen from someone else. So if you're asking the government to do anything on your behalf, you're actually asking them to rob a whole lot of people at gunpoint, because government always comes with the implied threat of force. It's like, no, you don't have an option. We are taking your money from you and we're going to transfer that wealth to someone else. That is robbery and that is violence. So if you want children to be fed from the hand of daddy government, you're asking daddy government to do something violent so that they can do something good. And is that right? So Charlie Kirk is right on this. No, the government shouldn't be doing anything for anybody. But the hypocrisy in Charlie Kirk is that he promoted Donald Trump. He promotes right-wing ideology. What is right-wing ideology? The same as left-wing ideology. I want my guy to use the power and the violence of the state to rob other people.
Does not exist. We have a child obesity problem, not a child starvation problem in this country.
That's the type of guy he was. The absolute worst.
Charlie Kirk is also just horrifically wrong here. I mean, even if there are some obese kids, I'm sure there are in every country, that doesn't stop the fact that many American children have a problem with lack of nutrition. And it gets even worse when it's lack of nutrition at school, during the school day. Because here's the problem. A lot of kids rely on this school lunch for their only lunch. When their parents don't feed them and they are starved, they rely on this school lunch. Without this school lunch, there are studies that kids are way less effective at studying, at retaining information, at just being able to function on a day-to-day basis. So just to back up, if you want a good, functional society, kids should not be starving, especially at school. Kids should be able to eat. And sometimes school is a last refuge for a kid who has a poor home life and isn't able to be fed properly at home. So the fact that Charlie Kirk has no empathy at all, it's just like, dude, this is the savior of the movement. Let me play for you this clip of him.
This is actually him having no empathy. Yeah, I agree. Charlie Kirk has no empathy because when you're in politics, you're calling for the violence of the state, whether you're right-leaning or left-leaning. So I can say the same thing about Adam Mockler as I'm saying about Charlie Kirk. Adam Mockler has no empathy for the people who are going to be robbed, for the people who are going to be stolen from, for the people who are going to be the victims of the violence of the state because Adam Mockler wants children fed. It's bad that children are starving. That's not good. But it's also evil that the government is going to steal money from somebody to supply to somebody else. That's not good. So basically what Adam Mockler is calling for is state-funded, government-sanctioned violence so that we can feed the starving children. And if you're going to use that line of reasoning, you can use that line of reasoning for doing anything that you might think is good.
Saying that Joe Biden should be executed. Before I even play it, I've been thinking over the past few days of posting a video on Twitter and Instagram just to mess with right-wingers. And in this video, I want to take Charlie Kirk's words, but just flip out Joe Biden for Trump. So in this clip, he essentially says Joe Biden is an old idiot who deserves the death penalty, right? How angry would MAGA be if I made a video and I said, Trump deserves the death penalty? Like, let me just play this for you.
But if you don't play both sides, if you don't support and promote and propagate the mental illness of statism, where you're calling for a ruler and you're saying your guy has the right to rule and you have the obligation to obey my ruler, if you don't play both sides, you can see that, yeah, Joe Biden is a warmonger. Barack Obama is a warmonger. Donald Trump is a warmonger. Henry Kissinger was a warmonger. John McCain was a warmonger. Wait a second. They all are. They should all be tried, and they should all receive the justice that is due them. The reason Adam Mockler thinks this is a gotcha right here is because he is wrapped up tight in hypocrisy, and he can't even see it.
Biden, a lot. I mean, Joe Biden is a bumbling, dementia-filled, Alzheimer's, corrupt tyrant who should honestly be put in prison and or given the death penalty for his crimes against America.
That is just true. And it's also true of Donald Trump. And this is where Charlie Kirk's hypocrisy shines through, because the very thing that applies to a Joe Biden also applies to a Donald Trump or a Hillary or Bill Clinton.
Trump is a bumbling, dementia-filled tyrant who honestly should be put in prison for the rest of his life or given the death penalty for his crimes against humanity. Yeah.
So that's not true? That's not true?
It doesn't sound so good when I say conservatives, huh?
honestly be put in prison and or given the death penalty for his crimes against America.
I love how Adam Mockler is actually revealing the poison of statism. He's revealing the poison of his own leftist statism, and he's revealing the poison of Charlie Kirk's rightist statism.
But Kamala Harris, my goodness, there's something that just kind of is tribal where people are like, I don't.
This is your peaceful savior? He was calling for the execution of the President of the United States. Your peaceful savior was sitting there. I'm not saying to you guys, to the right-wingers who are watching. Their peaceful savior is sitting there on these shows and calling for the execution of the President of the United States. And then right after all of the shooting stuff happened, Nancy Mace gave a speech last night at the Kennedy Center. And I want to play for you some clips from this Nancy Mace speech because she continues to spread and foment violence. But quickly, Mehdi Hassan said in response to Scott Adams, who was like, wait until all the haters of Charlie Kirk find out their anger is based entirely on quotes taken out of context. Mehdi Hassan was like, sorry, what's the context for Kirk saying that, quote, Joe Biden is a bumbling, dementia-filled, Alzheimer's, corrupt tyrant who should be put in prison or given the death penalty? Or what about just last week when Charlie Kirk said, quote, Islam is the sword the left is using to slit the throat of America? Like, this is insanely inflammatory rhetoric. And this is coming from people like Charlie Kirk, coming from people like Donald Trump in a top-down manner. I could keep going. Stephen Miller, J.D. Vance, Elon Musk, all of these people in a top-down manner are spreading this type of rhetoric, yet they pull up some random Twitter account with 0 likes and act like that represents every Democratic politician. It's just like random Twitter accounts who are saying crazy stuff, and Republicans are acting like that is every single Democrat. Maya Luna responds to Benny Johnson.
That is true. That people are inflating and conflating a whole bunch of stuff.
And so right-wingers are trying to concoct this entirely new narrative that because Tyler Robinson may have lived with somebody who was going to transition and was maybe transgender, that means this is a trans-affiliated crime. What are we doing here? Benny Johnson says, Charlie Kirk killer, Tyler Robinson, had a boyfriend who was transgender. This man is cooperating with the FBI and has turned over all messages. Maya's like, so let me get this straight. The violence is coming from Tyler's transgender girlfriend who is also just cooperating with the police and not the white dude who shot and killed Charlie Kirk? This is what they're trying to do. They're trying to spin this into some issue where they can punch down at the most vulnerable communities when it's just another white dude. It's just...
This is Benny Johnson. On the same screen, you got Benny Johnson, Maya Luna, and Adam Mockler all believing the official story that the actual shooter is Tyler Robinson.
Same thing that we've seen over and over. In fact, this dude was raised in a Republican family around guns, and it's not surprising that after a few years of internet radicalization, those guns came back around in his life and manifested into this. Now,
how does he know that it's the result of internet radicalization? Did he just pull that out of his derriere?
Really quickly, before we move on to this video of Nancy Mace, part of my job is to report the news that we want to hear. It's also to report the news that we don't want to hear. So I'm going to do that very, very quickly and try to disrupt some other narratives that I've seen online. And trust me, I've been on top of the facts. I've been reading all of the articles, all of the reports, just so I can stay on top of it all for you and report it responsibly. A lot of people are emailing me photos of Tyler Robinson in a MAGA shirt or Tyler Robinson apparently being a registered Republican. A lot of this is misinformation, everybody. The photo of Tyler Robinson in a MAGA shirt has been photoshopped. That is not real. Please don't believe that. We have strong arguments without that. Tyler Robinson was also not a registered Republican. That was a different person who was twice his age. Tyler Robinson's grandma also claimed that she doesn't think he did it. He's never used a gun, not Groyper movement online for like 5 years because part of my job is to be a liberal person on the right, not a far right, and she doesn't think that he did it at all. So people are citing his grandma as a source a lot. The grandma just thinks that he had nothing to do with it at all. The reality is this kid was not a far right shooter. There is no evidence pointing towards that. I've actually been following this far right Groyper movement online for like 5 years because part of my job is to be a liberal person online. So I track these movements. I follow these movements.
Part of my job is to be a liberal person online. Charlie Kirk's job was to be a conservative person online. Why don't you just be a human online that doesn't affiliate with any political side? This is the left versus right paradigm lie, and this is the infection that happens in the mind of these people. My job is to be a liberal person online. Talk about dehumanizing and demoralizing.
Movements. And the dude is just not a Groyper. There's been a lot of disinformation going around. Like there's an image of him squatting that was taken in 2017, 2018. But that's not a Groyper meme. The Groypers didn't exist in 2017, 2018. In fact, that is something called a Slav squat that is a popular meme. So the point is, please wait for more evidence, wait for the investigation, and I'm just reporting this to you because people are jumping to a lot of conclusions. Somebody unsubscribed to me. A few people unsubscribed because I said the other day, listen, we should not jump to conclusions. I do not think he's a far-right shooter. I've been tracking this. I just said, don't fall for the disinformation. And people were mad at me. So I'm going to keep reporting the truth, whether people like it or not. Let's watch this video of Nancy Mace saying that this is now a battle of good versus evil, just purely divisive.
This is not Nancy Mace. This is Kari Lake.
I know we don't have a lot of time. There's so many good speakers tonight. This is a battle between good and evil. I wish we could compromise, but you can't compromise with evil. You can't compromise with evil.
Wow, really unifying language to use at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. Joe Wall.
But Adam Mockler, the hypocrite that he is being right now, also doesn't use unifying language. Why? Because that's not what politics is all about. Politics isn't about unifying. Politics is about dividing and demoralizing. And Adam Mockler continues to engage in divisive language while he's criticizing Kari Lake for not using unifying language.
Walsh points out, let's be clear about something. Celebrating Charlie Kirk's death is really bad. And that is not something anybody should do because that escalates the violence, it foments more hatred, and then it comes back around and somebody that you like on your side will likely be killed. But using his death, using Charlie Kirk's death to call the other side, quote, evil and declare war on the left is worse than celebrating because it's dangerous. And I totally agree. For every random Twitter account that's celebrating, there are like 5 Republican politicians who are out there calling for violence. Joe Walsh says, celebrating Charlie Kirk's death is bad, but using his death to call for war on the left is worse because it's dangerous. It's inciting more hate, more violence, and you're calling for a civil or a holy war by saying this is a fight between good or evil. This clip has been going incredibly viral because Kari Lake tries to blame college for this. Like, their narrative around this, their messaging around this is becoming increasingly weak as they get more and more desperate. That's why I think we just have to keep pointing out the fact that at the same time Charlie Kirk was shot, there was another shooting in Colorado at Evergreen.
It's hilarious that the left is calling the right desperate and the right is calling the left desperate. Oh my God, there's desperation. They're blinking.
High school. At Evergreen High School, this dude was proven to be far right. He showed up to Evergreen High School and shot up the school. There is a clear problem, not between quote unquote good or evil, but between radicalization, youth radicalization oftentimes, and democracy eroding. This is something that we need to focus on more than whatever Kari Lake talks about here regarding college.
We've got to stop this, folks. We can't let this go on. This violence has got to stop. It's got to stop.
This is just gross. Not the vigil, but the fact that Kari Lake is on stage. Kari Lake is one of the biggest spreaders of hatred and lies in this country. She's been spreading election fraud lies in her state of Arizona since I was like 1 year old. Not actually, but for the past like 7 years, she's been spreading straight up election fraud lies and hasn't slowed down.
And I'm not going to say our side is perfect, but damn it, this is coming from the other side.
Not true.
And that's what now Adam Mockler is going to be like, no, it's coming from your side. Kari Lake's like, no, it comes from the other side.
True. Not true. Sorry to keep pausing it, but Micah Irfan and I made a video yesterday showing that 76% of violent crimes come from right-wingers. The vast, vast majority of crimes committed for a political purpose come from the right, because in a top-down manner, right-wing leaders radicalize their base. Trump, Elon Musk, they radicalize their base. There are all these right-wing pipelines that you can get pulled down. So we need to be very, very clear about that.
It's so funny. I would love to hear this guy's take on the Democrat montage where they're literally trying to radicalize their base. Punch them in the face. If you see them at a gas station, if you see them in a restaurant, like Maxine Waters was saying. Total radical language. Sounds like they're trying to energize their base to do bad things.
How does a 22-year-old become so filled with hate? 5 years earlier, I was told...
How does somebody who's supposed to be so intelligent believe the government story that it was this 22-year-old?
He was a Trump supporter. And we sent our kids off to college and they brainwashed him.
He did one semester. He did one semester at college before going to some sort of trade school. And then he dropped out. He was not brainwashed at college. And by the way, when you ask...
How does he know? How does Kari Lake know that he was brainwashed in college? And how does Adam Mockler know that he wasn't brainwashed in college? See how these hypocrites play off of each other?
How can a 22-year-old be brainwashed and filled with so much hate? Maybe you should ask Charlie Kirk, the person who's saying,
put in prison and or given the death penalty.
put in prison and or given the death penalty. The children who are starving and likely need nutrition, just, they don't need it in schools. I could play a bunch more clips.
I could play a bunch more clips too, Adam. You advocate for state-sponsored violence. Charlie Kirk, when he was alive, advocated for state-sponsored violence. Same with Carrie Lake. You guys are all hypocrites. And the problem with this world is we have the politics which aims to divide, dehumanize, and demoralize. Don't subscribe to my channel. Don't hit the bell notification icon. Don't like and share this video.